Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Roads Podcast. We're really super excited to have you today. We have a special guest for you today. We're going to give you so much information on the Medicaid process today. So I hope everybody is ready for some info. So get your pads of paper and your pens, and we're going to walk you through some of this process. So my name's Kristen Campbell. I'm here at Ingham County Medical Care Facility on Dobie Road. And I have, of course, my cohort in crime, Jill. Jill, please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I am Jill Clauser. I work for Advisor Care, Home Care, and Hospice. And we're excited to go down this path of navigating the Medicaid long-term care
Yes,
Medicaid
long-term
program.
care Medicaid, there's a difference. So we want to cover all of that today. And we want to introduce our special guest. So our special guest is Richard DeLeon. Richard, will you tell us a little bit about what you do? And then we'll get started with some questions.
Yes. Thanks for having me. Richard DeLeon, been with the state now, time's flying, it's almost 15 years.
Wow.
Been in long-term care probably the majority of that time. Started off in Jackson County. I think I only worked maybe 6 months in the regular processing, and then we had an opening in the unit that I worked in, and they asked, "Hey, do you want to learn long-term care?" And I said, "I'm so new." I said, "Absolutely, why not?" So I've been there ever since.
Great. Awesome. We're so lucky and grateful to have you here with us. So we appreciate it. I do want to start off by just saying to everybody, because they may not know, and Jill brought up a good point. So today we're going to be talking about long-term care Medicaid. There is a difference between that and community Medicaid.
Big difference.
So,
Yes.
yep, community Medicaid is exactly that. It's for folks who are still out in the community, who are on Medicaid, can be anyone from children to adults. Nursing home Medicaid is just that. It's specific to nursing home care. It's a completely different ballgame in applying for it. And so that we're just going to start off with that. It's just some FYI information. So, Richard, I just want to start with kind of a generic question, but can you walk us through what Medicaid sort of is and really sort of who, nursing home Medicaid and really who it's designed to serve?
Yes. Uh, the long-term care Medicaid is when someone meets a level of care where they have to go into long-term care, skilled nursing, and they don't have the means to pay for it on their own privately. So we know that with the high cost of that care, I think the average in Michigan now is about $14,000 a month for care. So we do have some folks that, did well in life, they saved, they did all the right things, and they're able to pay on their own. There's probably a large majority of our community that does not. So when that happens, where there's a life event that happens and they need to those services, that's where Medicaid comes in to close that gap and get them the services they need. Also, too, I'd like to just add that many times clients think that, I feel odd taking this, social services or this, programs because I've always worked hard, done everything on my own, didn't need those services when I was younger. But clients have to remember, and I tell them all the time, that they've paid for these services their whole working career, paying
Absolutely.
into Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not free, they've actually paid into it.
That's right. Yep, I agree with you. I think a lot of people feel strange about it if they've never been on any kind of assistance or Medicaid program, but you're right. This is what we pay for all our lives, just like Social Security. We pay for this. It's a benefit to us. So what do you see what is the biggest misconception that folks have about enrolling in Medicaid? I'm sure one of the biggest ones is how overwhelming it could possibly be, but what are some of the misconceptions that you see?
Yeah, I would say the two biggest misconceptions, one is clients think that they make too much money. Like I earn too much money, I don't qualify. And we're representing more anyone who's Medicare eligible. So over the age of 65, or if you're disabled and you're Medicare eligible from a disability. They always say, "Well, I know I don't qualify because myself or my spouse make too much money. There's no way we can qualify," and that is not a factor. When we're looking at eligibility factors for someone Medicare eligible or over the age of 65, we're really looking at an asset test. It's the assets that come into play, not income. Income, for the most part, is irrelevant.
Okay.
You're not going to be denied. It's just going to by income. It's
Okay.
always going to be the asset where we have to make sure.
Interesting.
The second misconception is a lot of folks do pre-planning, family planning, And there many times they say, well, the attorney told me 2 years ago to put my home in a trust. Now you're telling me I can't have it in a trust. So yes, when you look at family planning versus Medicare or Medicaid planning, they're two separate things.
Okay.
And I can get into more detail on why that's significantly different
Okay.
versus, estate planning versus Medicaid.
Jill, do you have any questions?
Well, and I do agree. I think when people are doing their family planning with their attorney, that's an event versus when we're looking at long-term care. There's something that's happened that now we're looking at a healthcare crisis. And I'm biased. I work for attorneys, so I say good attorneys are looking at that long-term picture and letting families know this is what we think the situation is today versus what it may be if a stroke happens or Alzheimer's happens or there's some medical crisis that happens. So yeah, I think that's a great distinction.
Yeah, a life-changing event, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what changes everything.
Yeah. Where do people typically get stuck, or where do they typically give up when it comes to the Medicaid process?
A couple of places, I think that, when you're going through this, it's very, very confusing, a lot of information, it can be overwhelming. I think a lot of times folks will start asking their friends, family members, did you have this experience or what? And they're getting a lot of information from experiences from other folks. And a lot of it may not be accurate.
Right.
So then they already have a preconceived notion of what's going to happen. I'm probably going to be denied because I had talked to my uncle or I talked to my neighbor and they had an elderly, family member. And when I get folks coming to me and asking me those questions, I say, first, forget about all that. Not that it's not important, but you're talking to someone works for DHS, long-term care. Ask me your questions, and I will answer them the best I can to give you the information, to start on a clear path on what I have to do. So I just think a lot of it's misinformation and, thinking that I don't make, my income's too high or I have too many assets, so there's no way I can be approved. And especially when we're talking more on married couples.
Okay.
I think that's the bigger,
Yes.
I mean, single is pretty straightforward. I mean, you can only have, it's roughly like under 10,000 individually of total assets. Income, again, is irrelevant. So we're really taught that bigger picture is married couples. Because, if you have your own home and you both worked, I mean, you're going to accumulate a lot of assets.
Right. Well, I would think especially in like a disability situation, right? Because
Yeah.
the spouse may still be working, whether it's the husband
Absolutely.
or the wife. And
Yep.
so I think a lot of people feel like, oh, my spouse is still working, so I'm not going to qualify.
Yep. It's just those where they think right off the top, I don't qualify, so why would I even try?
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Yep.
is there a good place people like? I always say, where do we enter the system? Where can we get the first accurate information that's up to date? Is there a place people can call or a website they can go to that just kind of opens that door for them of gets them in the right direction so they do end up in your office? Not obviously you're not going to do everybody in the state of Michigan, but they can find that friendly face that might be able to just ease some of their anxiety of entering the system, because I think that's incredibly intimidating to ask for help, and
Yes.
that first reach out isn't a positive experience for them. I'm worried that people kind of pull back.
Yep, and they'd probably hesitate when they need to react sooner, for care, and if you have someone who needs that immediately. Yes, I mean, we have, I didn't bring it with me, but if they were to Google state of Michigan, healthcare, and then just pull up under that, long-term care, because everything is segmented, like you said, there's hundreds of types of Medicaid.
Yep.
But if you pull up long-term care, then, there are other agencies like My Choice Waiver would pop up, PACE program would pop up under those categories. And that would be a start. I mean, probably the easiest way I would recommend is that we have now it's a statewide 800 number for clients just to call. And when they talk to a rep and just say, look, this is what I have. Can you direct me to someone who's in long-term care?
Awesome.
And then it's more direct.
Okay.
Because now the whole state of Michigan is universal caseload. When someone calls in, we have to take care of their question or the concern they have at that time. So to me, it would be an easy referral to just send it to one of us long-term care workers if it happens to be in Ingham County. I think there's 6 of us
Okay.
that handle
Wow.
long-term care cases.
Nice.
In different
Yeah.
facilities and
Yep.
different, parts of long-term care, but absolutely could answer those questions and really streamline it as
Hmm.
far as and again, it's very complicated. There's a
Yeah.
lot of information, but at least uh, give someone the information to, okay, this is the first step. Now I have a clear vision on what I need to do.
Nice.
Because if you talk to, again, the neighbors, family members, past
yes.
experiences, everything just gets so
Yeah, convoluted. And
It
their
does.
situation isn't your situation.
Yep,
So
and everyone's different.
and yeah.
Oh,
And,
that's actually a good example. Everyone will compare that they think everything's the same. Well, this is what happened to my mother.
mhm.
Why is this happening like for my brother? No, they're all different.
Yeah.
Every
they're all different.
situation's different.
And and the rules change frequently in Michigan.
Sure. Policy is constantly changing.
Yeah.
In fact, we just had the beginning of 2025 was the first time in probably 30 years when I talked to my coworkers that the asset limit for individuals was raised from 2,000 to like 9,500.
Hmm.
That was
That's huge. It's
yeah.
double.
Huge.
Yeah.
And for family members living in the community, I think it was up to 14,000, and before it was only 4,000.
Wow.
That's a big difference.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that's
So what applied 6 months ago may not apply today.
Correct. Yep.
So please reach
yeah.
out.
Don't give up. Yeah.
Don't give
Well,
up.
so just to go back to like entering the system and getting what is the like what's common documentation that you're going to need, or documents, I should say, paperwork, like what's going to be the basics when someone comes to you and you says, okay, you need a driver's license, you're going to have to make sure you fill out this. What are some of the common things people need?
Yeah, the most common, especially for long-term care, is filling out an application, right? I mean, this part seems a little silly, but we have it all the time. I need to do this, but I don't know what to do. Well, start at the basics, right?
Mhm.
Start with an application. You know all the information relating to yourself. If the other questions seem like I don't understand what they're asking me, then contact a worker again, and we can help you get through it. It shouldn't be a roadblock
Okay.
because you don't understand the wording of the questions So that's the first part. Fill out an application. With long-term care, we do need ID. We do need identification, and the main reason is because of the high cost of that care once
Okay.
you're approved. Any medical cards you have, we need to, if you carry like a secondary or a Medigap insurance, we need to put that in the case because it's the way they bill once you're approved for Medicaid if you decide to continue with that coverage. And then it's really, once you fill out an application, it's no different. I like to joke about, like you fill out a car loan, right? You have to provide all the information you're putting down. So if you have a job or if you get unearned income, Social Security, pension, you need to provide those statements so we can verify it.
Past tax returns, is that something
You can, but it's
Okay.
not. We would prefer current pensions, and
Okay.
even if folks, they don't, if they're paperless and they get stuff, they have to request them.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the reality.
Yep.
Social Security, we can normally interface with Social Security, so we don't need that. But in some cases, we do. If there's something different going on, like if it's authorized, ward off someone else's, Social Security, deceased spouse, or
Okay.
there could be many different reasons. And then we may need that. But so we need for income, we need a pension, we need any other source that annuities that you're receiving. We need the paperwork to verify that.
Okay.
And then secondly, any assets you own. So when we talk about assets, because that sometimes is confusing. What do you mean? Because a lot of folks will say, I don't have assets. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
I earn this much in a pension or that. So assets are anything that can be liquidated. So if you're applying your home, as long as it's under, I think it's around 700,000 in value, that's excluded as an asset, as long as it's in your name and not in a trust. Your main vehicle or your most valuable vehicle is excluded. All the others that you own, motorcycles, boats, all that, those will all be counted as assets. And then bank accounts, retirement accounts, stocks, bonds, additional properties you may own, or homes, life insurance policies that carry cash value would be a countable asset. Prepaid funeral contracts that are not irrevocable, that they're revocable. So if they're revocable, that means that you can cash them out and get a portion of that back
Okay.
that you prepaid. So those would all be countable assets. So that's what we're asking for.
Okay.
So again, because I have, as DHS workers, we have to verify what you're putting down, right? I mean, we're not investigators. If
Right.
you're writing it down, that's what I'm going to check. So if you put down you have, checking and savings accounts, I need that statement. If you say you have life insurance, I need a current statement showing cash value. So that's really all it is. It's just, you filling it out, and whatever you reported, then we have to verify.
Do you find that, especially some of our older folks that might be needing the Medicaid prize, is everything online? And is there any resources for folks who maybe don't have access to a laptop or don't, maybe they're not tech savvy? How can they get assistance with some of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. We recommend for us is to contact directly Tri-County Office on Aging.
Oh, okay, great.
Because they have resources where they can assist
Okay.
clients, and they don't have to be, enrolled into their program, the My Choice Waiver, but they have their community resource where they can assist with those things.
Awesome. Well, that's good to know.
Or send clients in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. How long does it take to typically get approved, or to get an answer, I should say?
Yep, that's a great question, because we get the gamut. So we have some folks that think I applied, family members, I applied 2 days ago, and what's the status? And then I have folks that
You're like, good one.
Yep, I always find that
Government website.
a little humorous.
Yeah.
So, and that's true. I'm not kidding. And then we have some folks that apply and then forget, or just because they have so much going on, they're working and they're assisting someone else, and said, "Oh, I applied. Is what happened?" It's like 6 months later. Like, are you kidding? No, it's already been processed. So the time frame for DHS workers, once we get an application, we have 45 days, start to finish, to process it and complete it. That's our what they call our standard of promptness.
Okay.
That's our deadline. We can't.
Good to know.
And we're held to that. So as workers, in many cases, depending on if there's not much that we have to verify, it's quick. It could be only 30 days, but sometimes it pushes to that 45 days if you have to request. Many times the big one that holds us up are life insurance companies, because if we request either the client surrendered the policy, we need proof of that ending, or we need a new updated policy with the cash value. Sometimes they say we're only going to send it by mail. So once it, they request it and it's 7 days, and then they get back, it's there's 2 weeks alone.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's those kind of things that can hold it up. Or if we have a trust, we have to, once we receive it, we need to take the full trust, forward it to our legal department. They have to read it. Depending on how backed up they are, that could take a week to 2 weeks. So it's just those things that, so it's a good cushion of 45 days.
Okay.
But yeah, we need to get it done within that time frame.
I have a two-part question.
Yeah, go for it.
I know, two-part question. So let's say they do have a trust, or the insurance companies aren't quite as responsive as we'd like to be. Can people request extensions on that 45 days?
That's a great question. Yep. So when you apply for Medicaid, and this is all Medicaid programs, you can request up to 2 extensions.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I worry families are gonna
panic.
And that's the responsibility of the clients, or whoever the responsible party is, or if they're working with an agency, it's up to them. It's not, we can't by policy as a worker, even though I may be working with the client and very involved with talking to family members, or we're getting this, I can't give extensions. They have to request it.
Yeah, and I think that's good for our advocates to know. It's okay to ask for extensions.
Absolutely.
And just like with Medicare stuff, I said always ask for the appeal, because while it's there, you want to ask for the extra time. And my second question is, as people are in long-term care or Medicaid, a lot of times they come in for rehab. They don't quite know what the future is going to be, and then they're 30 days down the line. Can I apply for Medicaid and have it look back at all?
Great question. Yes. So yes, when you apply, you're eligible for 3 previous months. So like if you applied this month in May, you're eligible for April, March, and February. Yep.
Okay.
I just think it's important for families to
Yeah,
know,
I
because
didn't know that.
they get down this road and
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I've been at long-term care for 60 days, and they get that first bill, and it's like, there's so much going
And
on.
that stresses a lot of folks out, especially if they're eligible for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, that is available.
Yes. Don't wait too long.
Yep, don't wait. You only get we can only go back 3 months, and if you wait longer than a year with that initial application, then that time window has passed.
Darn it. Yeah. Good. Great information there. I think a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that. So, what should folks do if they have applied and they get denied? What's sort of the next step?
If they're unsure, because a lot of unfortunately, our notices could stand a little more user friendly,
Mm-hmm.
literature, so we could actually figure out what they're actually saying. I know there's been a lot of progress made in it, but I think we still could do a little better in layman terms.
Yep.
If they're not sure why they were denied and it's not clear, then absolutely contact DHS.
Okay.
And if it came from one of the specialty workers like myself, then contact the worker directly and ask for an explanation of what exactly was it denied for, because it could be a number of things.
Right.
And it's not just across the board you're denied. And you have to have a clear understanding, because once you do have a clear understanding, okay, now we can reapply, and this is what either we forgot or we didn't follow up. Our assets were too high at that time, or it's never going to be about income. It's always going to be about, unless you didn't verify that you have a pension, and we needed to verify that. So I would get a clear understanding of why I was denied. Now, you also have the opportunity to appeal that decision. If you feel, once you've talked to a worker and you feel that that's not a correct decision, which sometimes there's mistakes that are made, it's not intentionally, and we can get that corrected. But clients do have the right to appeal, and they have up to 3 months.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yep.
Okay.
So,
3 months.
I mean, that's, to me, it's crucial. I'm not on the bandwagon to, oh yeah, appeal. I mean, I would rather resolve it. If it was my client and I realized I made an error, I would absolutely just correct it. But I'm not going to, they still have the right to appeal, but I would let them know that I'm going to correct. Once we reviewed it
Yep.
and went over everything and I discovered there was an error, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we're here to serve our clients.
Wonderful. And there are some places, facilities in general, or other, services that will take a Medicaid pending client. I know Dobie Road here, we're one of them, but I know there are others. So always ask that question too. If you have a specific facility you're looking to go to, ask that facility, like, hey, we're applying for Medicaid. Do you accept Medicaid pending? Or do we have to be already fully approved? I mean, it's just a great question to ask as you're out touring facilities, which I highly recommend. And just ask those kind of questions, because there are facilities who will accept Medicaid pending. So always ask that question. But
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really important is to reach out. You're very nice to reach out to DHS and stuff, because we don't want families doing things under false information and thinking they have to get divorced,
Correct.
or they start moving money around, which could create
other issues.
That's a very
without-
good point.
without good
Advice.
advice.
Yes. And
Don't
that is
bury things in the backyard. Like,
Right,
this-
right.
This is the system that is there to help you,
Right.
and don't panic. Like, I think
Yeah.
people panic sometimes.
And actually, you brought up a very good example, because that was probably the other thing I left out when you said, what is the biggest misconception? When you start talking about long-term care, I think a lot of times too, folks will default, I've got to spend down to this, like, so if we give them a dollar amount. So one of the things I like to do is pre-screen married couples, and the threshold we use is that, are your total liquid assets under 30,000 or above 30,000? That's where it's going to give me an example of whether they need to consult a Medicaid attorney to get them through this process,
Okay.
or whether they can apply on their own. It's a big difference.
Yeah.
So that's like the benchmark that's going to assist. So you're right. I think a lot of times family members will go, I was just told that they have, and it's so odd because, and I think it's just with, not that the information is intentionally given incorrectly, it's just that they don't know.
Right.
And even from certain facilities where folks say, no,
Absolutely.
that social worker told me I have to spend down to $2,000. So we're just getting the correct information, because it can be, it can even make it more overwhelming if you have a married couple and they have a home and, you know, assets and that, and they're like, oh, what am I supposed to do? It's so that's a big one. Yeah, we don't want them. We don't want folks burying money in the backyard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
And also to clear, so let's say we have snowbirds here.
Mm-hmm.
The rules in Florida and the rules in Michigan are probably different, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Each state has independently governed Medicaid.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times folks think that, well, no, I have Medicaid here, it should transfer. No, they're all
Is there a rule like you
funded.
have to live more days or months in one state than the other
There
to
is.
determine? Okay.
Yeah, so your residency has to be in order to stay approved for Medicaid and active. Your residency has to be, so if you're a resident of Michigan, that's how it has to be stated. Now, if you vacation somewhere else, you know, for, you know, a couple of months or that, no, that's not going to work against you.
Okay.
Your permanent residence has
It's
to
still
be.
here. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
And then that's where your Medicaid would be active.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think we have a lot of people that travel.
Yeah, we
have a
do.
lot of,
Mm-hmm.
we've all learned to move away a little bit. So as a daughter, you know, if my mom lives in Iowa, but I'm talking, you know, to Michigan, like I make sure we're going to the state that resident is in and getting the right advice, because it does
Right.
change from
State to
does.
state. Mhm.
state
Yep.
to state.
Yep.
So
They're all governed with policy, and then funding is all independent of those states.
Different. Okay. Well, great. Thanks so much, Richard. We're at the end of our time, but this has been amazing. We've really had some great information for our folks, and I hope people got a lot of information out of it. So thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. Jill and I really appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day, and Jill and I will see you soon. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.